Have you ever felt that gentle nudge telling you there's something more? That the path you carefully planned might not be the one that you're meant to take? I'm Marissa Switzer, and this is If I Hadn't Said Yes, Stories of Surrender and the Pursuit of Purpose. Each week, I sit down with women who have trusted their journey, stepped into the unknown, and discovered their true calling along the way. Whether you're feeling called to make a change or simply seeking inspiration from others who have taken the leap, this is your invitation to explore what might be possible if you say yes. Hi guys, and welcome to today's episode. If you are watching this on YouTube, you might notice that this looks a little bit different today. I am recording at night and I don't have the best lighting, so bear with me. This week's episode was supposed to be an episode with myself and my husband Sean, sharing some really exciting news about a business that we were going into as a family with my in-laws. And unfortunately, our new business did not get approved by the city zoning board. And so it's been a rough week. I'm not going to lie. It was something that we were both very excited about. And I don't think I realized how emotionally tied I was to it. And so in the last week of just kind of sitting in disappointment and wondering what's next, I feel like I've had some good realizations that I want to share. So this week's episode is going to be a little bit all over the place. I hope that you'll bear with me, and I hope that you'll also take something away from today's episode. If anything else, I hope that you'll stay tuned because I do want to share some things about the direction that I am taking this podcast. So if you have enjoyed the episodes thus far, I hope that you will enjoy my update. So let's get into it. Like I said, this week was going to be my husband as a guest, and we were going to be sharing some exciting news about a business that we were starting as a family with my in-laws. And when this business idea came about, and I'm not going to share necessarily what it is yet, just because we don't know what's happening with it in the future. When this business idea came about, I was excited, but I don't think I knew how emotionally tied I was to the idea, because I was like staying awake at night thinking about all the things we could do with this new idea. At first, I identified that as stress of like, oh my gosh, we're adding another thing to our plate, or, I can't stop thinking about this thing. And my husband looked at me and was like, I don't think that you're staying awake at night because of stress. I think you're staying awake at night because I haven't seen you this excited about something in a long time. And I think you just can't stop thinking about it. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks a little bit, because it did make me realize that he was right. I love my job. I'm so grateful for my job. I'm so grateful for my business. But the person I am today versus the person I was 10 years ago when I started my business is very different. My interests have changed, my passions have changed, and I think that this week, with this business falling through, really brought to the forefront for me the things that I need to start focusing on to bring my life more fulfillment and joy, and the things that I need to be okay with letting go. And when things kind of fell apart last week, I really came to realize that starting this other business was going to allow me the room to explore what my next steps in life are, what my next steps in my career are. It was going to financially relieve me from having to be so full-time in my business and allow me to take a step back, not in shutting down my business, but in only taking projects that I'm super passionate about, or just allowing myself the space and time and flexibility in my schedule to really explore what's next and explore what has shifted in my life, what has changed, and how I want that to play out in my business, in my career, and in my everyday life. And so when that fell through and I realized that that wasn't going to allow me the time and space that I needed to kind of take a step back, reevaluate, and breathe, it definitely felt very heavy. It felt like a lot of pressure, a lot of weight to stay the same, to stay in the same place where I might not necessarily feel 100% fulfilled anymore. I might not necessarily feel 100% walking in my purpose anymore. And again, I'm not saying I want to close my business. I'm not saying that I don't love what I do. I think it's just about doing it in a different capacity, and I haven't figured out what that is yet. That led me to want to talk today about identity and how we as humans go through so many identity shifts in our lives. And I think for a lot of us, maybe if you're also an Enneagram 3, I have found a lot of validation in my identities over time. And so I think when those identities start to shift and change, it feels like the ground starts to fall out from underneath me. But it's only natural. And if there's anything I've learned, it's that on the other side of those identity changes, you just blossom. You bloom and blossom into the next thing that God has for you, the next calling that God has for you, the next purpose, the next thing you're meant to fulfill. And it might be scary, but again, if you hadn't said yes, or if you don't say yes to those identity changes, you'll never know what might be better on the other side. My identity changes have been very tied to milestones in like my career, in my life. You know, I would say who I was in high school was very different than who I was in college, was very different from who I was right now. But a common thread throughout all of my identity from high school till now has been being a very career-driven person. I've always been very ambitious. I've always been very driven. I've always worked very hard, put myself out there in many capacities, and for a long time took a lot of pride in that, in being the like workaholic, go career girl. And you know, in high school and in college, I thrived, honestly. I think I peaked in college, if you would say, as far as just like being able to be in roles that I never would have dreamed of, or, you know, positions and experiences that I never would have dreamed of, all related to my career. And more recently, as I have begun to question what's next for me, I have realized that identity of being the career girl is something that I almost don't want to be known for right now. I know that sounds crazy, but we were having Easter on Good Friday at my in-laws, and we were talking about like all of our ages, like all the step siblings and cousins and whatever. And my husband's stepsister, who I love to death, is a year older than me, and her, you know, his stepmom said something like, oh yeah, you guys are like only a year apart. And she made the comment, yeah, but she's like light years ahead of me when it comes to career. And in that moment, I just kind of like, not cringed, but I was just like, oh, like I've been that girl for so long, and I don't know if I want to be that girl anymore. Like, I don't know if that's who I am meant to be anymore. I think I am in a phase of my life where my daughter's only going to be this age for one time in my life. And, you know, I want to be more in a mom role. I have a newfound interest in like health and wellness and hormone healing and just supporting other moms. And like, I just have so many new interests that I want to explore, whether that's in hobby capacity or, you know, a future career endeavor capacity. I've gained so many more facets since becoming a mom, since turning 30, since, you know, being a wife for 5 years, since moving to the South. I mean, I've lived in the South now for 9 years, which is crazy. I feel like there's so much value in recognizing when your identity starts to shift and allowing yourself the space and time to understand what that means. If you listen to the episode with Ariel, I think it was 2 episodes ago, something that I took away from my conversation from her was that she had a lot of time and space in her life thus far to get to know herself. And because of that, she talked about how she developed this incredible intuition where she just knows if something is for her or if it's not. I've just always been so go that I don't think I've taken the time to sit and learn myself in that way. And so all this to say, when you're in the middle of an identity shift and it feels like the ground is falling out from underneath of you, I want you to remember that everything in your life that has happened to you, has happened for you, has happened against you, everything that you've said yes to, everything you've said no to, everything that you wish you would have said yes to, has formed you into who you are today, right now, in this moment, and are going to carry you to whatever's next. Something that I really wanted to dive into more on this podcast, and I'm going to in the next month, and I mean this in like the most positive, optimistic way. I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but over the last 3 years, I've had a lot of trauma. And even though those things were really hard, I've learned so much from everything that I've gone through, not just from going through those things, but from healing from those things, from being able to have the 2020 hindsight to look back on those things. And trauma changes you. Moving changes you. New environments change you. New people change you. And it's only natural for your identity to also evolve as you move through these things. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share that because I want to be transparent that I'm kind of in this place of not knowing what's next, fully surrendered and trusting that whatever God has next for us is better than obviously what we were trying to plan for ourselves. If I am going to take the steps forward to step into my next identity, something that feels very important to me in order to feel fulfilled and walking in my purpose is to acknowledge the places in my life where I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm called to do. And one of those places is this podcast. When I originally had the idea for this podcast in December of 2023, it felt like God was pulling on my heart to share my testimonies of all of these things, these traumas that I've been through, these lessons that I've learned, and the spiritual growth that I've had through these things. And it was a calling to speak more openly in faith. And I'll be very transparent that scared me for a long time because I have a fear that if I speak more openly about my faith, assumptions will be made about myself and my beliefs that are not true. And so I just want to be 100% transparent here that in moving forward, in stepping fully into my calling of sharing my testimony and sharing more of my faith and of Jesus with anyone who listens to this, I love God and I love people. All people. All people are welcome here, no matter who you love, where you're born, where you're from. And I have just been living in fear, honestly, that if I showed up fully as myself and fully shared my faith, that it would turn people away who have assumptions about Christians. And I get it. I get it. This could probably be a whole nother episode, but in 2020, I left my church because I did not feel right about the way things that were going on in the world were handled by people who claim to love Jesus and to follow Jesus, who commands us to love God and love people and all the things that fall under that. But I can't live in fear anymore. I cannot fully step into my purpose or feel fully fulfilled in what I'm doing if I'm still living in fear. And so the next 4 weeks, the month of May, I am going to be doing a motherhood series. Now, I was planning on doing this before feeling the call to this shift. This month of May is extremely important to me because a huge part of my testimony and my life and everything that I've learned over the last 5 years revolves around my motherhood journey, from deciding that I even wanted to be a mom to pregnancy, miscarriage, birth trauma, NICU, parenthood. And so the month of May feels very important to me. It feels like I am just called to share this, and I hope that it will speak to anyone who is on their motherhood journey, their parenthood journey, or maybe you can share it with a friend who needs some encouragement. I just have such a heart for moms since becoming a mom. I just have such a heart for moms who are struggling postpartum, for moms who had traumatic entrances to motherhood, traumatic losses, any and every experience. I just have such compassion for moms. And so this topic is so important to me. So I'm going to wrap up season 1 of If I Hadn't Said Yes by, again, the entire month of May, focusing on motherhood, pregnancy, birth, parenthood. And after that, I'm going to take a small break and regroup for season 2. Again, really focusing on this being more of a faith-based podcast. If I Hadn't Said Yes is all about stories of surrender and the pursuit of purpose. And while I love every single person's journey that I have gotten to share in season 1, I think I've been holding back because of that fear. And so I am ripping off the Band-Aid and doing this fully, authentically, the way that I feel like I was called to do it. So I know this was a bit of a different episode. It might have been rambling a little bit, but I really hope that you took something away from it. I hope that if you have ever been in seasons of identity shifts, that you feel seen and heard and understood. And I really hope that you'll tune in for our motherhood series this May. If not, if motherhood doesn't resonate with you, stay tuned, because next week I have a really, really, really exciting interview to share with Jess Massey from Hustle Sanely. And she literally is the first person that I wanted to interview on this podcast and got to speak with her recently. So I know that that episode is really going to pour into you as well. I will see you in 2 weeks, first week of May, when we get to talk about motherhood. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of If I Hadn't Said Yes. If this episode inspired, encouraged, or moved you in any way, your rating and review would be greatly appreciated. Or maybe this episode made you think of someone in your life that you want to encourage to go for their big yes. Feel free to share it with a friend. You can keep up with all of our content at If I Hadn't Said Yes Pod on Instagram. We'll see you next week.